Welcome to today's webinar, What's New in Oracle BI 11.119 with Dan Vlamis. Today's presentation is one of a series of BIWA SIG TechCast, hosted by the Business Intelligence, Data Warehousing, and Analytics Special Interest Group of the Independent Oracle Users Group. I am pleased to introduce Dan Vlamis, President of Vlamis Software Solutions. Dan is a BIWA SIG board member and a co-chair of BIWA Summit 2016. Dan is an Oracle ACE director and author of 2 Oracle Press books and speaks regularly at various Oracle conferences, including IOUG's Collaborate conference and longtime friend of IOUG. Before we begin, I would like to remind the audience to please feel free to submit questions throughout the event via the question chat box on your webinar toolbar. Our speaker will leave some time at the very end of the presentation to address questions. With that, I will turn this over to Dan.
Thanks, Melanie. Appreciate you hosting today's webinar. Let me go ahead and dive into this very quickly. So today we're going to go over really just quick things on a little bit of background. Then the agenda is really reviewing the features. There's lots of new features. It's funny, as I went through preparing for this, originally I thought there's just a little bit, but there's actually a lot more in there that aren't necessarily big deals for everybody, but could be important to you. It's going to be mostly demo, and I've got some links at the end, and we'll allow some time for Q&A at the very end. So we'll continue on. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. So what we're going to go over, also you'll find their presentations from previous webcasts are available on our website at our papers and presentations area for previous releases. There's stuff for if you want to go back and look at other webcasts like the 11.117 release or previous releases that are out there. Your chat box you'll find is on the right side. You can use this orange arrow to remove it if it's in the way, and you can look at all the new features with that. With that, I want to ask Melanie to fire a poll question and go through who you are, whether you're a customer IT person, customer end user, an Oracle employee, or a consultant or independent, or whatever else, and we'll try and get a sense of who's in the audience today. So we'll give about just like 20 seconds for people to answer that question, and then close the poll so we can get on with this. Actually pleased to be able to use this to get a sense of who's in the audience. One of the problems in giving these webcasts is you just don't know who's out there that you're talking to, so appreciate that opportunity. We'll close in just another couple seconds here and go on. I'd say, Melanie, go ahead and close that, and let's see what the results come back with. So I see that mostly consultants or independent people, some are also Oracle employees, welcome, and mostly customer IT, a few customer end user people. So welcome, glad that you could join. So with that, one of the things I want to do also is take a quick plug for an upcoming conference called BIWA Summit 2016. I happen to be the conference chair for that. It's taking place at the end of January of next year, taking place at Oracle headquarters. So look at the slide for more information on that. A little bit of who we are, just so you know where we're coming from. Our company was founded over 20 years ago. We've developed all sorts of Oracle BI systems, and we specialize in Oracle-based data warehousing, business intelligence, as well as data mining, predictive analytics, and data visualization. We have a new book out, along with my co-author, my brother, Tim Vlamis, on data visualization for Oracle Business Intelligence 11G. And you'll find more information on our website at vlamis.com. We also happen to be beta testers for the upcoming release of Oracle BI 12C that we're very excited about in terms of some of the really big new features are obviously in that big release. But thrilled to have the chance to talk about what's in this next release of 11.119. Here are some of the releases. As I mentioned, these are available on our website, and you can see what was new in 11.115, 11.116, 11.162, 11.117. the current release that's out there, and now 11.119 that just rolled out at the end of May 2015. You can get information on those on our website, and thrilled to have the opportunity to continue that and talk about 11.119. With that, let's jump into today's presentation materials. Some of the end user enhancements, and what, it's kind of funny, what you'll find is that some of these things are new little things, some are big, but I always like to see all the little things that are there, and I got a lot of the information from this from talking to Oracle Product Management, as well as digging through the documentation. I'll talk about that a little later on, where they have a what's new section for each of the releases, and it's just a matter of digging that out and then looking at various blogs that other people have presented. So one of the things, for instance, a little thing is being able to control the number of decimal places with the scores in Oracle Scorecard and Strategy Management. One of those things that probably was just left out, if you will. Also, there's new search in the subject areas pane. The ability to click on that, we'll show that a little later on. I've worked that into the demo script, and so you'll see that live. There's a new tree map view that you'll see as well. There are global variables, a new type of variable that's been added. There's a Save Column As choice in the Criteria tab. We'll talk about that, and I'll show that as well, a way to handle custom measures. There's also new styles that are there, a new fuse and a Skiro style that allow for a cleaner look. And this actually dovetails well with the topics that we talk about in the data visualization book, where we promote a clean interface that helps people understand what the data looks like. There's also the ability to handle horizontal radio and checkbox prompts in dashboards. So rather than just them having to be vertical, we'll show that as well. There's a View Properties button in the compound layout. It makes it easier to adjust the properties instead of having to edit stuff all the time. And one thing I kind of stumbled upon was the ability to add your own images instead of relying on an F-map. I don't know if others have run into this. It seems like every time we're talking to a customer that wants to just put a logo up there and you have to go and find administrator. Now people can do that themselves, which is kind of cool now instead of doing that. Some extra thoughts on this before I get into the demo. The big thing, probably the biggest story for this, is Oracle has announced this is going to be the terminal release for the 11G line of OBIEE. And that's probably one of the big stories. So the emphasis has been on hardening this product, getting all of the bugs fixed, getting all of the little enhancement features that need to be out there, major stuff. And then the major stuff is going into really the 12C release. And we've been excited by what we see as part of the beta program on that. I've had a chance to actually even play a little bit with that, and it's pretty exciting what's coming out. This has been talked about pretty widely by Oracle at various conferences that they present at and such. But the big thing is filling in some little features using this interface on that. There's also a new testing and validation tool that's really separate from the release that's coming out to be released on Oracle Technology Network. That's going to help people move to this new platform, move to both 11.119 and up to 12C without having to worry about, will my dashboards be broken? What changes that users will see? All that type of stuff. So keep an eye out for that. We're pretty excited by that. And then the other message here is I think that this is all preparing for the 12C release. So you'll see that they even take advantage of wider screen layouts. So the layout pane for the tree map is presented in a vertical fashion instead of taking up precious horizontal layout space. Take advantage of the wider screens. With that, I said we would jump into the demo relatively soon. So I'd like to do that, and then we'll come back to some slides and talk about some other things. So I'm going to now, at this point, go over to a dashboard. This is Sample App Sample App version 506, a pre-release, if you will, of that fortunately we were able to work with the Sample App team. We work with them very closely on this type of stuff, so we can capitalize on that and showcase that. One of the new features that is an end user feature is the new tree map views. So now there is the ability to, as a built-in native type of view is the ability to look at data via this tree map, where the proportion of the amount of screen real estate that's taken up by each of these blocks, each of these rectangles, is proportional to some measurement, in this case, the revenue for each of these different geographic areas. We also have on this an example of a dashboard prompt with a horizontal checkbox. So as I check off 2010 and 2011, the data changes behind the scenes, and I can see that as it changes. And this is taking advantage of some of the stuff in previous releases to have that change in front of your eyes and not have to click apply. If I come down to the bottom of the screen here and click Analyze, we'll go and show a little how this comes together. Now, a tree map is just another type of view. So if I come in here and add a new tree map, you can see here's the new type of icon for a tree map with little color rectangles. It joins, by the way, and I'll talk about this a little later if I get a chance, there's a map type of view that's already in here as a native type of visualization that you click on that and you can look at your data geographically as a map. Tree map is just like that, just another type of visualization in OBIEE. There's also the ability, if I go ahead and add another tree map in here, and it'll add it to our compound layout down at the bottom. So there's the one that I just added with its default colors. I can now, if I want to change something about that, rather than having to go in and edit it, there's a new button that's the view properties directly on here. So I can come in here and turn off the legend, for instance, and I can also come in here. Right now we're grouping these by brand. So you see the BizTech area and Home View and FunPod, and then it's showing the products within those various brands. If I want to not show the group, I can change that, click OK, and now that goes away. They're still sorted by the various brands, but then the brands themselves are being hidden in this. So those may be known by the users, so I don't even need to do that. As well, if I want to eliminate the brand grouping, I, of course, can go in and edit the visualization directly itself. Come in here, this is what you had to do before. If I scroll down, and this is that layout pane, and notice that's presented vertically instead of horizontal. This gives kind of a preview of what they're doing with the interface and visual analyzer that we've seen. That's available, by the way, today in BI Cloud Services and coming as part of 12C. I can now drag that brand down to the excluded, and that's going to make it so that it doesn't even sort by brand. This is all just the products. So that's some quick stuff in just showing what the new tree map view looks like and how that interacts with this. If I come back, you can see this is my new revised presentation on this. So let me come back and let's look at other features in here. No, I don't want to keep this, so I'm going to leave this page and come back and show. Let's talk a little bit about the selection steps. So if we look at the selection steps in here. So in here we have now the ability to specify in, for instance, in your init block in the RPD file, they now have the ability to specify values that are going to be default selections or hard-coded selections in a JSON format in your init block. So this is what this would look like. This is part of Sample App to just kind of describe how this works. And the Philippe Lyon's guy that puts all this together as part of his team showcases very nicely to document how this works. So we can create the session variables in JSON syntax. If I come in here and edit this and show how this works, we come in and look at this simple little pivot table, and if I expand the selection steps, you can see what we're doing. Then this is keep only these 4 selection steps. Now if I click on the pencil and look at how this works, there's now the ability, before we had the ability to override with a prompt, now we can override with other types of variables as well, including, in this case, the session variable, selection step time. So that is saying, I don't care what you put in here, I'm going to override that. And for instance, if I remove these 2 months and I'm only interested in January 1st and January 2nd and remove those, after I click OK, for instance, come back and actually it changes back and puts those back. Now what we find in our implementations, we're often limited in using selection steps because of the ability not having enough programmability. We need to play with this more with the new release and see where we exactly use this, but the ability to use any type of variables with that directly with selection steps is going to improve our ability to capitalize on, frankly, an area that is not used as much in implementations as it should because of some of these types of limitations. Let me also show there's a new calculated measures button that's up here where I can add a new button without a new measure without having to go to the criteria tab and create a column. So I can click on that directly and create a column. And I'm going to add a new type of measure called average price. And I'm going to do that directly, and we can take revenue that's being shown in billed quantity. So I'm going to select revenue divided by billed quantity, and that's what I'm going to do as price, and go ahead and create that directly. And notice I'm looking at the results tab. Don't have to switch to the criteria tab to do that. So let me click on OK, and now that adds that to my presentation. Let me get rid of the selection steps. You can see average price has now been added to my presentation, and I can add the extra column. If I want to, I can even save that average price to a subject area. So let me come in and let me show one other thing while I'm here. As well, I can add new global variables, and I can add a cost % variation, for instance, that's in here, and add that to my presentation. These are new global variables that you can add directly and use those directly in the calculated measures or other places as well. So the ability to add these global variables is another way for people to share these types of calculations better. So now let's go ahead and add that to the catalog. So I'm going to come to the criteria tab, and you'll see where these show up. Here's my average price. Here's the other global variable that I created. So I'm going to come in and add average price now and save that column, not just for this presentation, but you can see I've done this earlier as I prepared for this. But now I'm going to add that to my catalog, and I'm going to add it to my folder subject area content. This is the default area that it goes to. But I'm going to go ahead and save that away to my folders. As well, I could have just as easily saved that to other places that are shared with other people. But I'm going to save that away. Yeah, I'm going to overwrite what's there. And now that appears in my folder. So now here is the subject area content, sample sales. There's average price. If I come in here and click on the pencil, and I can change the column properties of that, for instance, to, for instance, I noticed that it only had one decimal place. It kind of looked silly as a price measure, but it only had 0 decimal places. Let's change that, and I can do that. Now, one other thing while I'm here I want to show real quick is the ability to look up various different measurements. So here, if I didn't know where I could find revenue, if I hit enter on here, it'll go through the entire subject area and find all of the places where revenue is. Nice little shortcut. Again, Oracle kind of filling out the feature set. If you forget where revenue is or whatever, you can find it. As well, we can go in and sort the subject area. So I'm in here and I want to see this right now. You can see this is the default area, default order. If, for instance, the end user wants to be able to sort this alphabetically, they have that available at their disposal anytime, including the children down here. If I come back and sort this in saved order and drill on products, you'll notice it's P1 through, and the P0 is in the middle here. Don't know why exactly that's right there, but it should be sorted alphabetically. I can sort it alphabetically if I want, and that way users can find things more easily maybe than that. All right, so with that, I'll come back to the results tab. You can see I have my 2 decimal places, and here's my global variable I've added in there. I can share that average price with other users, and now it's going to make it much easier to share these types of calculations amongst various users in the organization and use them in presentations and control the format, all that type of stuff via a saved measure. As well, I wanted to show on exporting this. So let me get rid of this text that I don't want to export into Excel. But now we can export. If you come down here just like before. Now notice there's the option here for Excel 2007 Plus. Interestingly enough, the ability to export to Excel 2003 is gone in this release, in PowerPoint 2003. I suppose they figured that technology is old enough. It's been, what, 12 years since those came out, so they dropped that, and now it's Excel 2007 and above. We now have the ability to change some export options and change things around. This is where you change your print and export options. You can change the paper size, the orientation, whether it's portrait or landscape for PDFs or PowerPoints, that type of thing. You can specify whether you want the rows to be visible, just the visible rows, or all of the rows. So as you expand and collapse, that will affect what gets exported to Excel. We also have the ability to include charts and images, whether you want the headers, footers, you can edit those, all that type of stuff in the formatting. You can also control the wrapping of text. So I want to go ahead and wrap the text, and I can control a fixed column width. Interesting enough, apparently across all the columns of this. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll show this in Excel. So let's go ahead and export that, see what that looks like. We'll go ahead and export that to Excel. It fires up, and lo and behold, there is my presentation. The other thing that I have not had a chance to play with yet that I'll tell you is some of the export. It's obvious they were looking at this. I wouldn't be surprised if the behavior of how we create PDFs and Excel spreadsheets is a little bit different in terms of fixing some of those little nuances of when things wrap, when they don't wrap, all that type of stuff is a little bit. You should experiment with the dashboards that you especially care about. It's been an area that I know we've run into at various customer engagements. Now you also, as we do this, we can control as well how this dashboard, this is exporting just a various a view of data. As you may know, we can export an entire dashboard. So I'm not going to save my changes in here. I can export the entire dashboard. There's a new ability to have dashboard layouts. So if I come in here, these are the normal things. By the way, if you didn't catch on to this, there's the ability to export an entire dashboard that brings everything in the dashboard, not just the one view. So this would bring this as well as this into Excel. That's a feature that was added previously. But now what's new, if we come in here and edit the dashboard, there's the ability to come down and look at print and export options in here. This is the same stuff we saw before, but then there's this new button in here to create layouts. I'm not going to click on it for you, but what it'll do is it sends this layout to BI Publisher. BI Publisher, if you don't know, is a pixel-perfect module that allows you to control much more effectively the layout of exactly where things appear. And this will create a layout in BI Publisher. You move things around in kind of a WYSIWYG editor to change things so you can have a different layout for your PDFs of how it's going to export the dashboard. I know as we have done things like create maps on dashboards, and we want to control the precise layout, what's the aspect ratio. And the big thing is the printed page is significantly different than how you're going to export things when you look at a dashboard, which is fundamentally typically a landscape type of presentation, and then as a PDF, often these ends up needing to be portrait type presentations. You can now control all of that by changing the layouts of this. So that's there as well. We also have a fuse style. Let me go ahead and get out of here, and I'll show. So, and then if I come in here and look at the fuse style, this is one of the new types of styles that's in there. It's a flatter look. and the borders around this change. You can see basically the Sample App team took a screen snapshot of what this looks like and showed it what it would look like in the Fuse style. And you can even run it live if you click on here and look at these live. But that's what that looks like. And instead of having a black border and blue here, you can see they've changed that. And it also affects even the rounded edges, where the drop shadows appear, whether this is gray background, all sorts of stuff like that, as well as the way all of the text, the font that they use, and can even control the colors that are the default color palette. There's also changes in how some of this skin and styling works in 11.119. This is an area where people have wanted to more customize the way OBIEE works. There's the Fuse style. There's also a Skiros style that was added in a previous release. Let me also show, as long as we've been doing this, we've been tracking how long each one of these, in our OBIEE session, how long each one of these works. This is a feature, the ability to show this in a graph is a feature of Sample App. But the important thing is, in the sessions tracking, they've added new metrics that we can use to track the session information. Here it's showing by the hour of each, what the average duration is and the number of sessions by 0 through 23 hours of this, or by day, how many minutes have we spent on these various sessions and the number of sessions. The important thing is the metrics is getting more and more rich to track how people are actually using this. One of the other features that we have in here is the ability to use more and more HTML5 is replacing Flash. So this we've seen all over the industry, and Oracle is no exception. So now we have the ability to show things in HTML5. I'm going to go ahead and showcase, this is some of the stuff that's in Sample App. If you're not familiar with this, this is a fantastic platform, and there are tons and tons of sample dashboards. I'm going to showcase one of them, but this list goes on and on. Each one of these are dashboards, and then there are multiple dashboard pages for each one of these as you drill down. You want to learn how to do stuff in OBIEE. This is a great place to look. But if I come in here and just look at some stuff that you can do, now this is the Sample App team working with the Map Viewer team, and this presentation here is fed by Map Viewer, just like the built-in map views into OBIEE, but in this case it's a custom Map Viewer stuff. And I wanted to showcase a little bit of what you can do once you start doing things with this, and also showcase why it's important to be able to do things with HTML5. So one of the things in here, and you can kind of get a sense of where they're going to go with some of this as they incorporate this into other places. If I select this tool and I want to select, we have the normal way of selecting by region. Come down here and you can specify the Midwest region via a prompt, and that would change what appears in this table of data. So I can select Midwest region, Northeast region, and so forth, and that'll select the various points. That's not as exciting. If we want to then lasso select, and I want exactly these airports, and I can come in and look at geographically those, and it puts points on here. Those are now selected in yellow, and those are the ones that I especially want to focus. And I can even come in here and move that line or that point over here, or importantly delete it, that type of thing. It's a very rich interface that we have the ability to work with in this HTML5 interface. So anyway, there's a lot you can do. The ability to work with HTML5 also makes this possible to work with multiple platforms, including, people are more interested now in working with tablets on Android and iOS, and as well some IT managers say, no, we're not supporting Flash anymore. That affects what browsers can be run with, all that. Now as Oracle moves more and more towards doing things in HTML5, it makes it more possible to move to more platforms. So there's a lot more in Sample App. Let me just show real quick, just give you a sense. If we look at this index, each one of these are various pages of what you can do. These are the various visualizations. If I click on the full index, just as a tip, by the way, the stuff showing in blue is those things that are new. That's kind of where I went for finding some of the new stuff that's in here in this release of Sample App. And I also often end up using this as a search. I want to find all the stuff that has to do with a pivot table. I can type pivot in here and then find all the things that are pivot related. That's how I dig through all of the rich content that's in Sample App. Now, I also want to show some other things. There's a approximate count distinct in here. Let me come back to this new content in V506 release. So there's the ability on the Exalytics box. It's one of the things in this release. If you're running on Exalytics, they have new features for handling ragged and skip levels with the aggregate persistent wizard. Also the ability to take advantage of and calculate things very quickly on a count distinct type of calculation. We found we need to do these in some of the OLAP style implementations that we do. There's also, I wanted to show something in here called attribute importance, taking advantage of the Oracle data mining feature that is part of the advanced analytics option to the Oracle Enterprise Editions. So one of the things in here is showing how you can easily incorporate the Oracle database and the advanced features in that into OBIEE. In this case, we're looking at what different target column names. We're looking at revenue. We want to know which attributes most influence revenue. And we can see units is most highly correlated with it. It does a pairwise type of calculation based on the importance and calculates the importance of each of these. You can use this then to figure out which of the columns you want to focus in on your dashboard. So we're seeing more and more of this type of blending of predictive analytics, things with R, the statistical language R, that then start to influence how people are using business intelligence, how they're analyzing their data with OBIEE. There's new custom visuals that are in here as well. The ability to add new things like, this type of sand key. This is what they're doing with JavaScript or jQuery to come up with these types of things. In this case, plugging in a custom visual of the Google Sand Key, other types of things. We also have the ability to source things from Cloudera. There's places that show on here. I don't have that started up, and the Big Data SQL stuff for that. So there's examples in Sample App to show how all this works for that. So a lot more to look at in this release than just things. There's also, by the way, the ability to, I don't have it started up, but the ability to source things directly from Hyperion Planning in the 11.119 release. So that's what I wanted to show, especially from a live demo standpoint. Let me come back and see what other areas we want to talk about in the new release. All right, so that's the demo of the new features. Some of the features that may be of more interest to the administrators. And by the way, a lot of this came from a great blog entry. Wanted to give a shout out to Robin Moffat from Rittman Mead on their blog about the new features for administrator. Here's the URL if you want to look it up. It's a great article that you can follow on later on, or just Google for Rittman Mead. Anyway, there's a BI server query, instrumentation and usage tracking. He talks in there about the new columns that have been added. There's the ability now to look at the BI server logs, not just by seconds, but in milliseconds. So you can really fine-tune how long things are taking on your BI dashboards. And you can see also the total time spent in BI servers, something that we had to kind of ferret out of the logs. Now it's available. And available in tables, so we can see that type of thing. The usage tracking, as I mentioned, has new columns, including the session ID, so we can get into how long does this session ID actually take. The init block has some timing tracking to see how long that init block, that becomes important, and how long does the BI server take to start up, and how much time are we spending in those init blocks. There's also a presentation services cursor cache that manages sessions. I mentioned before the HTML5 rendering instead of Flash. That may be also of interest to some of the administrators that are out there. You don't have to worry as much about Flash and turning that on and off. One thing also, users, as I mentioned, can add their own images instead of relying on doing things with fmaps. It also means that they may clog up your catalog with that. So that's some of the things that I got from the blog entry. I also want to point out we talked to the documentation team. And it's interesting, you know, I had to go into the documentation to prepare for this webcast. And there's actually a section in there that always talks about what's new in each release for each of the books. What you'll find, so I didn't spend any more time on the documentation, it's now organized by task. And you'll find this is a general thing that Oracle is doing across many of their products. They've heard that rather than just these book organization, let's talk about what you're trying to do. So there's a getting started section, for instance, or an analyze section. Maybe I'm interested in analyzing things. Also, a top tasks for Oracle Business Intelligence. And each one of these links then is also a video that takes you through. There may be like a 5-minute video of how this works, finding and exploring existing content or creating your first analysis. Or if I click on the Analyze link, I'll get this Analyze, getting started with analyses and dashboards. So often I don't want to look at the 1,000-page documentation. There's even a getting started guide that is much shorter. It's in here as well. Here's the link for the documentation. You can find it as well and explore that. It actually looks pretty good. One tip, if you're looking for that what's new, click on the books link, and then you can click on the specific guide, and the what's new in 11.119 is available, but you have to go to the books link and click on the individual guide and see what's new for that audience. And a suggestion for Oracle, have as a task, in effect, what's new. Would make it easier for us to find this stuff. As I mentioned, we use a great deal here at Vlamis Software. We use Sample App v506 on top of 11.119 that's coming out. The demo today was based on that, and you can download the Sample App from this URL. This specific version is still being worked out exactly how they post it, some of those types of details that Oracle has to go through. But I hear that that will be available at some point. And that this is, you can download from here. The current release out there is fantastic as well. I think it's 406 from 2004, not 2005. But then that demonstrates the new features. It runs as a fully contained virtual machine, runs hosted on Oracle's VirtualBox product. And then they also have a YouTube channel, by the way, that has a lot of the demonstrates a lot of the features in OBIEE, this Oracle BI Tech demos. Great place to look. Now, some other things I wanted to show, some things that I didn't have a time to show really live on what this looks like. Some of the new Exalytics features. This is what that aggregate persistent wizard looks like in handling count distinct with aggregations in your aggregate tables. You can look at that and see the definitions of what that does. There's also the persistent wizard now on an Exalytics box, handles ragged and skip level hierarchies in your aggregate tables. That will help us out a great deal when we try and handle these types of ragged and skip level hierarchies and be able to capitalize on that. There are also new in Sample App v506, there's some new BIMAD apps and plugins for BI Mobile Application Designer. So you can look at those, and there's more and more of these types of examples being shown. There's also an important development. One of the areas that we use Sample App is showcasing some of the integration that you can do. So there are areas where they do some very clever tricks, and you can invoke database functions directly from a dashboard using, for instance, the evaluate function, passing in various contextual values. Or you can work directly with an Apex application. There's an example on there, by the way, on how to enter comments on a dashboard, all done using Application Express, if that's an important thing. So you want to rip it apart, see how they did it. You may even be able to do it better than what they did for your specific situation. There's a couple extra custom visuals. I showed some of those in the demo. And the ability to integrate with other environments is also very important. Oracle is focusing more and more on integrating OBIEE and making that work, sourcing data from, for instance, Impala or Hive directly from Cloudera. It's part of the stuff that they need to put together in terms of distributing this. How do you distribute stuff that includes Impala, for instance, and Cloudera software? You may need to do some of this plugging things together directly yourself. Also, if you've been paying attention to the Oracle 12c, what they talk about in big data, one of the announcements in the last few months has been big data SQL. That's also showcased in this version of Sample App. So you can see some of that, and they have examples where you can look into that directly. With that, I will handle any questions that people have. I have some resources here. I wanted to make sure I put some links up that you can see on all these, and the session is being recorded from what I understand, so you can look back at it and also write down any of those URLs. So let me see, if you have questions, put them in the chat box, and I'll try to address them as I can. I should forewarn you, I'll give my best answer. I should emphasize I'm not Oracle. I can't speak for Oracle. So if you ask future questions of will this be done, I'll give you my opinion, but you can't count on it. So happy to do that and address things as I can. I've only had a few weeks of since this release came out to prepare, but I'll try and answer any that I have. I see one question that came in as we go through. Okay, let me try and address these as we come up. So chat using the, let me go ahead and show you if people care. Here's what the chat box looks like. Type your questions in here, and then they'll be forwarded to me, and I can try and address them as they come up. Let me put up the resources slide again. Okay. Now, one is, what is the benefit of global variables over repository or presentation variables? That's a great question. I started looking at global variables. They are available to be shared, but I haven't wrapped my head, to be frank, on the whole global variables versus saving columns to the catalog. And I don't have a great answer for why global variables are so much better than this. And so forgive me, I didn't really look into that enough to be able to address that question. Can I export the layout CSS of the report and use the same format of on another report? When you export the layout, the CSS of the report, I'm assuming this is the BI Publisher layout thing, and being able to use that on another report. I don't know if the layout is tied. From running it, I would tell you that I found that it was really just doing what you could do if you spent some time in BI Publisher addressing all of this. You could lay out all this yourself, but there's a whiz runs, and it takes a little time to run, at least when I was playing with it, like a minute or two, not, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but enough so that I didn't want to show it live during a type of webcast. But it comes up, and it really just creates what you could create yourself. So it really comes down to, is it appropriate to do that type of thing and share those layouts across different things? You could do this yourself and change that yourself. So ultimately, I don't know exactly whether you can use that with other reports, but it's going to be very similar if you create it yourself. Another one I can have is, the other question is, can we start use with d3.js styles? Actually, I'm glad the person that chatted this in mentioned that. I forgot to bring this up. We now, part of the thing that we can do with this is incorporate other types of visualization engines, such as one that's growing in popularity is D3. There are places where, just to telegraph what I've heard behind the scenes, OBIEE is a very rich platform for developing various types of visualization looking at the data. There was, for a while, it seemed, an emphasis from Oracle to create all sorts of different types of new types of views. What I'm hearing now is, rather than trying to create every view that's out there, they're going to more focus on enabling other people that create these types of views and incorporating that more richly into the product. Right now, you have to write JavaScript, and you almost kind of write code that writes the JavaScript or JTable queries, that type of thing. One of the platforms that people use for that is D3. And so now they're going to be making it easier for us to present that type of data via D3. Whether we can actually start using D3 styles directly, I'm not sure. It depends on how you write your D3 code on that. So I haven't played with it enough to really address that. It's actually a great question if you're developing all your stuff with D3. The question then is Sample App for 11119 on OTN? Right. The Sample App team, from what I hear, hopefully I'm not revealing too much, they're working through all of the ramifications of making that available on OTN. It's basically all buttoned up, but then you have to, in any big company, you have to go through and make sure you have everything all set before you post it out live. I will tell you, if you look at the Sample App releases, you'll see that they generally have a year number and then a month number that's associated close to when they're released. So you can kind of guess, I won't say it, but you can guess when they're targeting trying to come out with this Sample App release just by the number. It's Sample App V506 that I'm using today. It is not available right now, but it is V506 that I'm using today. Another question is, can you show more pictures on the map reports? I'll have to ask for a clarification on that. When you put up a map reports, I believe this is addressing that when you run a map, we can show all sorts of stuff on maps. Can you show specifically pictures as in GIF images or JPEGs or something like that? I'm not sure. I think we can. Yes, I know we can actually, because you can add them to the catalog. We've had to do that before. But it may be that the person that's asking that question wants to see more of what you can do with maps. Let me go ahead and show one while we're going again and bring up other parts in case that's what they were asking. So let me go ahead and show one other. If we look at map formats in here. So this is what's in the built-in view in here, is looking at the various states. This is a built-in background thematic map. And this area has not changed. You can go and change what the thresholds for when I appear green and when I appear red, all sorts of stuff like that, if that's what they're looking for in terms of how I do that. I don't want to turn that into, this is not a new feature for 11117. If I have time, I'll come back to that. Are there any known issues you have run across in this version? I'm trying to think through. As I went through this, basically, I should emphasize I'm running today with this virtual machine. And so in this case, I did not install this, create my own RPD, go through an entire process of what it looks like. We have, however, in our labs, we have installed the 11119 version, and in talking to other people in the team, they install it on top and move up, not an issue. I have not run into it, but I would also say that really with the limited amount of time we've had since this release rolled, I would not say that it's a big thing. I will tell you that 11119 has been, quote, ready for quite some time. And I know from talking to product management people, the time has been spent really on the testing phase of this. And the whole goal of this release was to have a hardened release that is ready for prime time. So the fact that Oracle took a little more time, I think, is indicative of them saying, yep, it's actually ready, and let's put that out. I saw actually things came up very nicely. I'll tell you also the startup of this in the sample app is much easier now. There's one button to click on to start all the services, and actually it stays up all the time as I prepared for the demo. So I've been pleased with what I saw. I have not really seen any issues on that. Another question is, does the new style get rid of grid lines in tables, or at least an option to do so the entire table instead of field by field? That's actually something that we have struggled with as well. As we prepared our data visualization book, we found that there are some best practices that we want to do that are different from the default way that you get OBIEE tables. And one of the examples that we talk about is the grid lines. We want to get rid of them. I have not tried to get rid of those in this new version and see whether it's easier or whether the new Skiros style or the new other types of style, the Fuse style, gets rid of that. Let's go ahead and look at one of the dashboards, and it may be that we can answer this question right here. If I come in and look at some of these, if I click on Fuse style again and click on this dashboard, gee, these are all types of graphs. So it doesn't show this if I look at trellis charts, but I don't know that these are using the Fuse style. Well, it doesn't show it either. So this is some of the stuff in the Fuse. This looks like it's Fuse style in here, but again, graphs. Looks like these are all graphs. Here's one. So these apparently have these have grid lines, is what I would call this. So it looks like it simplifies them, but it does not get rid of them entirely. But I would have to dig into this more to see if these are have been changed from the default. I do know that there's an emphasis from talking to Oracle on trying to make it easier to change those types of styles so we can make changes more easily ourselves. It's something where you have to dig into CSS to get into that stuff now. One question was, anything new in the RPD? Interestingly enough, as I looked through the new documentation, I didn't see anything in the RPD file for people that are editing that. It may be I missed something as I went through. You could certainly find it in the administrator's guide in the documentation where you look up all of that. As I prepared, I didn't see anything. I will tell you from what I hear in talking to Oracle, I don't think there's as much emphasis in changing that because it's all going to change more significantly later on. Even at some of the stuff as I attended the Oracle Open World presentations on OBIEE 12c, what's coming, all that. Yes, there's some new things in 12, but not as much focus on that because they have to think, well, how are we going to change things? And they recognize that would make a lot of changes to customers. So they have to be careful in that. Another question was, what are you hearing about RPD administration, 12c RPD administration? Will it be easier to integrate with source control? I am hearing that, yes, they're looking at that. And I should be careful I don't talk too much about that because, one, I can't talk for them, and two, frankly, it's an area that is changing what I hear month by month, year by year on that. So it is a recognized need. I do know that. Can I set the, another question is, can I set the cache property for specific users? I don't know. On that, the ability, there's different caches, by the way, the presentation services cache and the BI server cache. And for specific users, I'm trying to think whether that changes in this release. I don't believe there's a change for this release specifically on that, but whether you can do that for different users. I do know that we've been able to turn it on and off, so I would think you could programmatically, if you will, do that so that you can change it back and forth. That maybe you have to use some of the APIs or write some scripting to do that. It seems like you would be able to do that. I'm not sure though. When will the Sample App 506 be available for download? I kind of addressed that earlier. It may be that that question came in before I talked about it, but in general, I read that as 2015. And sometime in the next few months is what I hear. Don't hold me to it. How do you export a report in multi-sheet format in Excel? You know, it's funny. There's a feature that I saw in the documentation about multi-sheet format with Excel. Frankly, I didn't have a chance to play with it, and it's one thing that I would have liked to have prepared for this webcast. Just didn't get to it to be able to export a report in multi-sheet format Excel. Look for it, though, because there may be something there that I missed. Any updates to metadata, a better way to view metadata? You know, I didn't see anything on that. I would like to have more. You know, there was that thing where you can sort the catalog, but I agree with the implied question or critique, if you will, with the person that posted the question. I would like to see more things with metadata. I will tell you one area that I've seen that I'd like to take advantage of, capitalize more on, is the ability to hide various columns. This was introduced in either 11.115 or 11.116 or 11.117, I can't remember which, was the ability to hide various columns. And there's also the ability to change what metadata ends up showing up as that you can control in your BI dashboard so that people can see what's going on. But you have to kind of plumb it yourself. It'd be nice to see that handled by Oracle better in the future. The other question is, what does a vertical view look like in a pivot table? You know, it's really funny. I saw that that was a new feature that was mentioned. There's the new vertical view with pivot tables. I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it. So perhaps I should have reached out before the webcast. It's something I wanted to show, and I did not see what the new vertical view in pivot tables is. Maybe that's I got some wrong information as I was putting this. Maybe it didn't make it to the release, or maybe it's in there and I just didn't see it. I did not see it in the documentation when I tried to look for specifically that feature. Maybe I just missed it. Another question is, printing the whole dashboard to PowerPoint available? Yes, I take that as yes. I saw that in the template, so I would think so. Trying to catch up. Where can one get the RPD that goes with the sample app in order to open up with it the admin tool? Well, what I do on that is if I come back to the home screen here, and I didn't do it, I meant to do it before the webcast, is come in here and download BI desktop tools. And here is the Oracle BI Client installer. I would click on that to install BI admin tool of 11.119. Once you do that, then you can go in and download the RPD, assuming you have the rights, from the running image, and then you can have the sample app RPD file. That's how I grabbed it on the previous release. I just haven't done it with this release yet. Is there a way, is there any enhancements on ETL data warehouse in 11.119? And to that, I'm not sure there is. I have not found any. But really, ETL data warehouse, I would think that's more questions on something else than OBIEE. I think of OBIEE as not handling the ETL areas of the software. So I'm not sure I'm following what the questioner is asking. With that, I think I finally caught up to all of the questions that flowed in. But also, coincidentally, we're at the end of our 1-hour webcast. So with that, I think I'll offer, if you have questions, I put specifically my email address out on here. So let me put up that slide. And you can feel free to send me questions at dvlamis@vlamis.com. Would also love to hear whether this was of value to people, any suggestions on what we do differently. And you can look at our website for all of this, including a recording of this. And the PowerPoints will be posted up there as well, so you can look at the slides on that, as well as the IUG website. With that, let me turn things back over to Melanie to close out the webcast. And thank you very much. Send me your comments and thoughts, and look at our blog. Thank you, Melanie.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. We'd like to give a big thank you to Dan, our speaker for today. Before we conclude, please make note of our upcoming webinars and past webinars by visiting www.ioug.org. A recording from today's webinar will soon be available on the IOUG website in our Solutions Center. We'd like to thank our speaker and everyone online for attending the event today. There is a survey after this webinar for you to complete. We thank you in advance for your feedback. Thank you again, and have a great day.